For the next lesson, we have here the integumentary system. Okay, so as we all know, the skin is the largest organ of the human body. And here are some trivias about the integumentary system. So the skin covers an area about 20 square foot. Kapag tinanggal siya dito sa human body, it is about the size of a small blanket. So it is known as the integument. So integument means the skin and its appendages. So it's either the hairs and the nails. And then the skin holds 650 sweat glands, 20 blood vessels, more than 1,000 hair follicles, 500,000 melanocytes, which are the pigment cells in our skin, and more than 1,000 nerve endings. And every day, every minute, approximately 30,000 to 40,000 dead skin cells are being worn out in our body. The next one we have here, the functions of the integument. Number one is protection. So the skin protects the rest of the body, our body, by keeping out many threats from our environment, such as pathogens and other microorganisms. It also protects us from the damaging solar radiation from the sun and other chemicals that is in our environment. The next number two is we have thermoregulation. Thermoregulation, it means maintaining a consistent body temperature. So the skin is very important in thermoregulation. Next is water balance. So the skin's outer layers are more or less impermeable to water. So it's for keeping water and salts at a certain level inside the body and preventing us from excess fluid loss. So next one we have for the incoming messages. For the incoming messages, we have 1,000 nerve endings. So in our skin, so it means that many types of sensory organs are embedded in our skin, including receptors for heat and cold, pressure, vibration, and pain. Next, also for outgoing messages. So the skin and hair are messengers to the outside environment, mainly to other humans. Our emotional state is also reflected in our skin, such as flushing, blushing, goosebumps, and sweating. So, nakikita rin yun sa skin natin, yung iba't iba nating emotions. Next is substance production. So in substance productions, we have different glands in our skin, especially sebaceous glands. So sebaceous glands are the oil glands. So it is usually associated with our hair follicles in our skin and produce a waxy substance called the sebum. So later on, i-discuss ko pa yung sebum. So also, aside from sebaceous glands, we have other gland in our skin which are sweat glands. So sweat glands are also responsible din for thermoregulation because 'di ba kapag tayo ay masyadong nagtatrabaho or napapagod, so our sweat glands of course produces sweat in order for us to cool down. So yung perspiration natin, yun yung nagiging cause kung bakit nagko-cool down yung ating body temperature. Okay, so those are the functions of the integument. The next one is the structure of the integument. So we have 3 layers of the skin. So first that we're going to discuss is the topmost layer, which is the epidermis. So epi means on top of, kaya siya epidermis kasi topmost layer, yung epi na prefix means on top of. Kapag naman hypo, it means beneath or lower. So yun yung prefix and suffix na madalas magagamit natin dito sa integumentary system. So, doon na tayo sa epidermis. So, epidermis is said to be composed of stratified squamous tissue. So, it has no direct blood supply. So, di ba na-discuss ko na last yung kung ano yung squamous tissue. Stratified squamous tissue. Okay, so yung epidermis meron pa siyang ayan. So yung epidermis meron siyang layers din. So we have the layers of epidermis. So ang makikita nyo dyan ay puro tissue. Mostly squamous, stratified squamous tissue. So mag-start muna tayo dun sa basal, sa pinakababa. Ito yung basal. So the basal is considered to be the healthiest of all the epidermal cells. So this layer is the only one that has cells that reproduce. Okay, so ang nangyayari dito sa basal, yung the older cells, ito, shift upward, nagiging spinosum, and then eventually granulosum, lucidum, and corneum. So, yung sa basal nagsisimula lahat hanggang mag-shift sila sa pataas. As the tissue gets older, umaakyat siya. Okay? Next. Next is the most superficial layer. Ano naman yung most superficial layer? We have here the stratum corneum. So, kaya siya stratum kasi nga stratified, pero ang tawag pa rin dyan is corneum. So, this corneum, these are hardened dead cells full of keratin. Okay? So, yun yung thick skin. Yung sa ating mga kamay, sa palm of our hands, it has an additional layer between the granulosum and the corneum. Ayan, so itong lucidum. So sa talampakan natin at sa palm natin, sa mga palad lang natin, doon lang meron itong lucidum. Okay, pero sa other parts ng ating body, sa ating epidermis, wala nitong layer na lucidum. Okay, so sa palm lang, sa palad, at sa sole ng ating feet. So sa talampakan, doon lang merong lucidum. Okay? So, next, yung ating corneum pala, etong corneum natin, it is called as self-repairing because dyan yung mga namamatay na cells or the dead cells na tinatawag. Kung tawagin, di ba, ng iba is yung libag. Okay, so nakanina banggit ko that 30,000 to 40,000 cells are being worn out every minute. So, dun yun sa part ng corneum. Okay. All the cells, yung kanina sinabi ko, are keratinized. So, keratin is a protein that makes stabilize the cells. Okay. Tapos, yung corneum din yung sumasalo ng sweat or ng pawis. Okay, na nagmumula sa sebaceous glands. Ayan, okay. So, mabalik muna tayo dun sa basal. Doon sa basal, also included doon yung tinatawag nating melanocyte. So, what is melanocyte? So, in the basal, this layer also contains melanocyte which produce the melanin pigment. Para saan naman yung melanin? So, that pigment gives color to your skin, hair, and eyes. And also, it protects our skin from the damaging effects of ultraviolet radiation from the sunlight. Okay, it is known that melanin absorbs ultraviolet radiation and cools down more than 99.9% of the heat of the sun. So, ganun ka-importante yung melanocytes because they produce the melanin pigment. Okay, next we have here, ano ba yung isa pang part dito which nakalagay is keratinocyte. So, keratinocyte are the cells that comprises the whole epidermis. So, lahat ng cells na to, ang tawag dyan ay keratinocyte. Nag-iiba-iba lang sila ng tawag doon sa layers. So, basal, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, and corneum. Next. Okay, so we're done with the layers of the epidermis. Doon na tayo sa next layer of the skin, which is the dermis. So, in the dermis, it is made up of two layers. So, the dermis is known to be the thickest region of our skin and made up of two layers, which is the papillary region and reticular region. So, ano ba yung makikita natin sa papillary region at sa reticular region? So, ito yung dermis, the thickest layer. Okay, so in the papillary region, so it is made up of basement membrane and papillae. So, ano ba yung papillae? So, papillae are finger-like projections that push the basement membrane. So, anong ginagawa niya? So, papillae projecting into the epidermis forms friction ridges. Ayan. So, friction ridges, ang tawag dun sa mga ridge na yun is, it is what comprises your fingerprint. Ayun yung friction ridges. So, balikan muna natin yung diagram, yung illustration dito. So, kung makikita nyo dito sa dermis, yung papilla ay na ito. Ayan. And then, it pushes forward or upward hanggang dito sa epidermis natin. Tapos, nag-create siya nga nung friction ridges na namumuo yung fingerprints. Okay? And toe prints. Next is the reticular region. So, for the reticular region, it contains protein fibers, and it is a complex and metabolically active layer. Bakit siya metabolically active layer? Because siya yung nagko-compress naman noong ating skin's characteristic products like hair and nails, sebum, watery sweat, and apocrine sweat. So it also contains structures that connect the integument to the other organ system. Okay, so dito naman, matatagpuan naman dito yung glands natin. Ayan. So, tingnan muna natin dito sa diagram. So, dito sa dermis, nandun yung sebaceous gland. We also have the eccrine sweat gland and the apocrine sweat gland. Okay, so mamaya i-discuss natin kung ano yung pinagkaiba ni eccrine sweat gland at ni apocrine sweat gland. Doon tayo mamaya sa mga accessory structures natin. Okay, pero doon siya matatagpuan sa dermis. Next, we have the next layer of the skin, which is hypodermis, also known as the subcutaneous layer. It is the layer of tissue directly underneath the dermis. It is mainly composed of the connective tissue and adipose tissue. So as you can see here, ito yung hypodermis or the subcutaneous layer. Makikita nyo dito yung mga fat cells natin. So those are adipose tissue. Okay, para saan ba yung adipose tissues na yun? Bakit siya nasa pinaka-ilalim? So, its physiological function includes insulation and the storage of our energy. Okay? So, ayun, yung pinaka-function ni hypodermis. Okay? Because it contains connective tissue and, of course, the adipose tissue. Next, we have the skin's accessory structures. So, number 1, we have hair. Number 2, nails. And number 3 are the glands. So, the first one is all about our hair. Okay? So, as humans, we have hairless palms, soles, talampakan, lips, and nipples. But then, when puberty hits, puberty brings about a surge of sex hormones that stimulate hair growth and the axillary, so kung natatandaan nyo, ang axillary ay yung armpit or kilikili, and pelvic regions in males on the face and the neck. Okay, but women with hormonal imbalance can develop facial hair also. Ayan. So, matatakal naman natin yun pagdating natin sa endocrine system when we're going to talk about hormones. Okay? And our body has millions of hair follicles. Ayan, yung mga balahibo natin sa katawan. So, how do hair develops? So, a hair arises in a hair follicle. So, kung makikita nyo dito, we have here the illustration of the hair follicle. So, it is a small tube made up of epidermal cells that can extend down into the dermis, in order to have a rich blood supply. So, kagaya nung diniscuss ko kanina dun sa dermis na meron tayong papillary region, okay, so meron din ditong papilla. Okay, itong hair papilla na to, it has the ability to continually divide and produce new cells that are added to the end of the hair and push the older cells up through the layers of the epidermis. Okay, so ito yung may dahilan kung bakit humahaba yung buhok natin. Okay, so on the way up dito sa hair follicle, ayan, it becomes keratinized. Again, so keratin is a protein, okay, that is produced by skin cells in mammals, birds, and reptiles. So keratin-containing structures are hard, tough, and waterproof. Ayan. So the alpha keratins are the main components of hair. Ayan. So yun yung isang type ng keratin, yung alpha keratin. Meron din naman tayong tinatawag na beta keratin. So, yung beta keratin naman, matatagpuan naman siya sa human nails natin, sa ating mga kuko, mammalian claws, and porcupine quills. It is also found in shells, scales, and claw of reptiles, also in the feathers, beaks, and claws of birds. Ayan. So, meron dalawang klase ng keratin. Alpha keratin sa medyo yung malalambot. Ayan. Yung beta keratin are for the harder accessory organs sa skin. Okay? So, ayan yun. Yung nasa labas, kapag lumabas na yung hair doon sa epidermis, it's already known as the hair shaft. Okay? So, ayan yung hair natin, hair follicle. Next is, we have here the second one, which is the nail. Ayan. So, our fingernails and toenails lie on the nail bed. So, ang tawag dito is nail bed. And then, at the back of the nail bed is the nail root. So, ito, yung pinagmumulan ng nail. Just like the skin and our hair, the nail starts growing near the blood supply that lies under the nail bed. And the cells move outward at the rate of about 1 millimeter per week. Ayan, so humahaba yung ating mga nails, kaya natin sila kinugupitan, pati yung buhok natin. Excuse. Okay, so at the bottom of our nails, we have here, ito naman sa front view natin, we have here the lunula. So it is a half moon shape. Lun is the prefix, Latin root for moon, as in lunar, because it looks like a, yun nga, half moon shape, kaya siya tinawag na lunula. Okay, so the lunula is white. Bakit siya puti? Because this is the area of cell growth. So in our nail body, etong buong nail body, sometimes it looks color pink. Ayan, it appears pink because of the blood vessels na nandoon naman sa nail bed. Ayan, that's why it appears color pink. Ayan. But then, yun, nagiging pink siya kapag thick na yung kanyang tawag dito, nail. Instead dito sa lunula na kulay white pa. Okay? So, that is the nail. So, hindi ko na naman masyado ito i-discuss lahat ng parts niyan. Next, we have the next accessory organ are the glands. Okay, so we have two main types of skin glands. Number one is the sudoriferous glands, and the other one is sebaceous glands. So what are sudoriferous glands? Sudoriferous glands are also known as sweat glands, while sebaceous glands are oil glands. Okay, under sudoriferous glands, we have two other glands. The first one is the eccrine sweat glands. Okay, eccrine sweat glands are distributed all over the skin. So, saan siya? So, these glands open to the skin surface. And when you're feeling hot, they release sweat to reduce your body temperature. Ayan. So, yun yung para sa eccrine sweat glands. Ano naman yung apocrine sweat glands? So, apocrine sweat glands, they start to develop during puberty and connects to the hair follicles of the armpits and groin area. Ayan. So, apocrine sweat contains a milky white substance and may also contain pheromones. Okay? So, pheromones are chemicals that communicate information to other individuals. Ayan. So, it usually activates or become active when you're anxious or stressed, and as well as when you're sexually stimulated. But then apocrine sweat glands becomes active when you hit puberty. Okay? So, yung mammary tissue natin, yung milk-secreting glands natin or mammary glands natin, they are thought to have evolved from the apocrine sweat glands. Ayan. Kasi nagiging active din yung mammary glands natin kapag we reach adulthood. Okay, so yun yung pinagkaiba ni eccrine at ni apocrine. Ayan. So si eccrine more on sweat. Si apocrine naman more on chemical substances and hormones yung sinisekret niya. Next, we have the sebaceous glands. So sebaceous glands secrete an oily substance called the sebum into the hair roots. So it makes our hair, ang tawag dito, oily. Ayan. So para hindi siya ganun ka-dry. Sebum prevents water loss from outside. Ayan. Sebum also helps to protect from infection by making the skin surface uh, an inhospitable place for some bacteria. Okay. So, yun yung una niyang sinisecrete, sebum. Number 2 naman niyang sinisecrete is the vernix caseosa. Okay, ano naman yung vernix caseosa? Ito naman yung a layer of stick sebum sa human fetus. Ayan, sa amniotic sac. Sebaceous glands din yung responsible for that. And we have the other sebum, which is the cerumen. Cerumen is known as the earwax. So, saan naman yun? Siyempre sa tenga, kaya nga siya earwax. Okay, so it is produced by the specialized cells in the ear canal. Okay, so yun na yung skin glands. Next is the pathophysiology of the integument. So we're going to discuss the different diseases of the skin. So number 1 is the skin cancer. So skin cancers are classified as a melanoma. A melanoma is a malignant tumor or spreading type kind of cancer. Or a non-melanoma, so it's limited to one portion of the skin type or one part of the skin. Okay. So, we have different types of skin cancer. Number 1 is the basal cell carcinoma. So, it's the most common form of skin cancer. It is easily removed and usually easily cured. Okay? So, dito, the immune system becomes increasingly unable to detect the tumor as it grows. Akala mo sa una, warts lang. And then, mostly it happens lang, kaya siya basal. Okay, sa basal lang, sa epidermis lang siya nangyayari, hindi pa dun sa dermis. Kaya mabilis pa siyang matanggal. The next is squamous cell carcinoma. So it also starts in epidermis, yung buong epidermis naman, starting from the basal up to the corneum. So it is believed that for every 100 people, kaya nakalagay dyan na 1/100, for every 100 people diagnosed with squamous cell, 1 is likely to die from it. So, yun yung squamous cell carcinoma. Okay, so that is squamous cell carcinoma. In squamous cell carcinoma, it is more likely to spread to a nearby organ. Ayan, unlike basal cell carcinoma, sa isang part lang siya. Okay, next we have the malignant melanoma. Ayan, so it starts in the melanocytes. Okay, so the cells that produce melanin. Ayan, so very abnormal yung production ng melanin. So these are cancerous spots na black, ayan, black spots talaga sila. So malignant melanoma occurs mostly in light-skinned people who have history of sunburns, especially kapag bata pa. Okay, so 1 out of 5 people diagnosed with malignant melanoma die from it within 5 years. Ayan, so talaga ito yung medyo stage, yan, patsugi na. Okay, so the next one, so tapos na tayo dun sa skin cancer. The second one is dermatitis. So in dermatitis, it is the inflammation of the skin that takes form of a rash, itches, and burns. So it has many causes: infection, insect bites, irritation from chemicals, allergies, skin abrasion, sunburn, and sometimes genetic disposition. Okay, and also yung fungus, ayan. Next is alopecia. Okay, so in alopecia, it is the abnormal hair loss. So there are two types of alopecia. Yung isa ay androgic alopecia. So, andro, yung prefix natin, meaning it occurs in males. Ayan. So, or male pattern baldness. It is the most prevalent and inherited condition. So, sa mga lalaki, madalas yung alopecia na yun, androgic alopecia. And we have the other one, which alopecia areata. It is hair loss in which the immune system attacks hair follicles, ayan, to fall out in large patches. So, yung root cause niya is still unknown, yung alopecia areata. But then, some of, ang tawag dito, some of the scientists states that it is mostly because of stress. Ayan. Kasi hindi makapag-function ng mabuti yung mga hormones natin for our immune system. Yon. Next is temporary alopecia. So, ito, marami itong causes, including also stress, severe illness, surgery, nutritional deficiency. Next is trichotillomania. So, in trichotillomania, it is due to compulsive or impulsive hair pulling. So, ano naman dito, yung sa mga mahilig magbunot ng buhok, ayan, so in trichotillomania, nadadali yung mga nerve endings. So, it eventually leads to not growing of hair. Ayan. And then, trichotillomania is for impulsive hair pulling. Okay? Next one is ayan. So, nail problem. So, the number one nail problem is brittle, concave, spoon-shaped nails with ridges. So makikita nyo dyan sa picture, ayan yung itsura ng concave, spoon-shaped, and nails with ridges. Yung parang may mga, pag tinignan mo siya side view, merong wave-like structure. Okay, so mayroon yung iron deficiency. Next is, yan, nails separating from the nail bed. So, unti-unting humihiwala yung nail doon sa nail bed. So, it means maybe you have a thyroid disorder, also known as the Graves' disease. And then, also, for respiratory or heart disease, there are black marks that look like tiny splinters in your nails. So, yan, may mga guhit na color black. It may be caused by a respiratory or heart disease. And lastly, we have here maybe a chronic dilation of the bronchial tubes and fluid retention in the lymph glands. So, those are hard curved yellow nails. Ayan. So, yung fluid retention in lymph glands are also known as lymphedema. Okay? Or lymphedema. So, those are the pathophysiology or yung diseases ng skin and accessory organs of the skin. So, that's for the lesson in the integumentary system. So, there will be a quiz for this. I think a recitation. Ayan, I'll just announce in the GC kung quiz or recitation for this one. Or an activity maybe.